I'm working on a Hickok Model 246 color bar generator. It works, but it doesn't generate any color. And there doesn't seem to be any documentation available for this unit. It's kind of an odd duck. This one's in really nice condition. It doesn't look like it's seen any use or very little use. I wasn't originally going to shoot video of it, but considering it seems to be kind of rare, I figured I would get some footage of it to share. So where I'm at right now is it did have these two capacitors on the board here, and one of them was leaking physically. The juices were coming out of it and running down the board, and I've cleaned that up. And they are a 16 volt at 680 microfarad and a 25 volt at 680 microfarad, and they were oriented, let's see, they're oriented like this. The 16 volt was on this closer side, and the negative for that was on the edge here. The 25 volt was over here, with the negative being that way. I did take a picture of it before I removed them. What I didn't catch, though, I didn't realize one of them was a 16. I thought they were identical, and so I got two 25s, which will still be fine. I just didn't catch that one of them was a 16. So also, I tested them in a capacitor tester once I had them out, and they were also internally leaking some too. So I kind of have my doubts that these are my issue with the color, but they obviously need to be replaced, so we are going to do that. I ordered a couple of 25 volt 680s from Mauser. They arrived today. Unfortunately, I had to get radial because axial is just stupid expensive. So I will have to make these work. I just always figured, even though you can make these work, axials look better. But anyway, let me get these in place and then I'll bring you back. Okay, new capacitors are in place. Focus. It's not going to focus. All right. And I think that was the only electrolytics in this thing. Yeah. Those aren't capacitors there. They actually look like crystals. I'm not positive that's what they are, but that's what they look like. They're cylindrical but long. Wide, I should say. And we got there's a couple ICs in there, several transistors, a lot of resistors. There's a little pot. But yeah, that's it for the electrolytics. So let's power this up. See what it does. If I remember right, This one required channel 2. Okay, let's turn it on. And there's our bars, but I'm still not seeing color. No. So, I didn't really expect the capacitors to fix the color issue, but they obviously needed to be replaced anyway. As far as how this thing generates colors, I really don't know. If anybody has any input on what I should check next, I'm all ears. It's got the gun killer switches, and they don't affect anything, but I'm pretty sure on those you have to have your leads hooked up to your CRT. Right now all I have is the twin lead feeding a signal into the television. But you can see that flipping those does not affect anything. It's also got chroma level. That doesn't do anything. And video level, no change. So that's supposed to be rainbow right there. That's gated rainbow. The chroma changes the shades. Video still doesn't do anything. Gun killers obviously don't. That's gray, so that one's right. So the functions, as far as the pattern generator, it works fine. I just have to figure out what to look for on the color generator. Before I wrap the video up, I figured I would show this unit fully assembled. You can see it's a pretty nicely made thing. Anodized aluminum. It's got the opening in the back for all your leads, all your storage. You can also run it off of a couple of 9-volt batteries to make it portable. Switch from line to battery. So this is the Hickok 16 pattern LS1 color bar generator, model 246. So as you saw, it functions fine, but it does not have any color. If anybody has any suggestions on what circuit or part I should look at to figure out what's wrong with the color, please feel free to mention it in the comments. If I can get some feedback and figure this out, there will be a follow-up. If not, that'll be it for this guy as far as the video goes. I do have a sidebar we're going to go to now, not related to this, but electronic related. Just kind of an observation. Many years ago I had bought this assortment of film capacitors. I don't remember exactly where. Probably one of the usual online vendors, or possibly a homeless guy behind Circle K. I don't remember. But they're just cheap replacements. Now these are supposed to be half watt, and I know there's no identification on a resistor to actually identify the wattage on it. I know many of you know too, that we look at kind of the thickness of the leads to give us an idea on the wattage, if we don't have, the package it came in. Like I said, having purchased these, I know these were supposedly half watt, but I did notice out the gate it's got a really thin lead on it. So let's measure that. And I don't know if the camera's going to pick that up. Maybe if I'd move my light. That's better. So we are at almost 20 thousandths. 19.5. So almost 20 thousandths of an inch. Now we go to NTE. Now I know these are 1 watt, so it's not really related to these, but I'm leading up to something. NTE 1 watt is 30 thousandths, so significantly thicker than those. That's an extra 50% thicker than these. And here we got Radio Shack half watts. So 22.5 thousandths. Maybe 23. Yeah, 23 thousandths. So even the Radio Shack half watts are thicker than the no brand half watts. Now, I went to one of the usual online vendors because I thought it'd be nice to have some 1 watts in stock, and this is just part of it. It actually, it's a nice collection. It's got 10 pieces each of the different values mentioned on here, but again, they're clearly marked 1 watt. They're film, like those other ones. And I pull it out. These don't feel any thicker than the cheap half watts. And they're not. 19 thousandths. That's actually thinner, isn't it? These were 20, weren't they? And now they're measuring 19. Maybe I need to re-zero this. No, it's still zeroed. Uh, 19. Yeah, 19. So the 1 watts are the exact same size lead-wise as the half watts. Nowhere near the NTEs, or even the Radio Shacks are better. Just an observation, just some musings here, because obviously, you can't run to Radio Shack or Fry's anymore and pick up your electronics. You can go to places like Mauser or DigiKey and still get some good stuff. But you're not running to your local store anymore unless you're still fortunate enough to have one of those. Like I showed earlier, on this unit I did purchase the capacitors from Mauser, so if I have a project I'm working on and I can place an order, I'll buy the nice stuff, but it's obviously handy to have a selection ready at home when you're working on something. It just wouldn't be practical cost-wise to have this many, name brand resistors on hand. That would be extremely costly. So I guess it's just the sacrifice or the chance you take. Maybe this is good for testing or just cheap repairs. But once you figure out what you want, you place an order for something better. I don't know. And who knows, maybe they're fine. Maybe that lead thickness is fine for 1 watt of power. Again, that's not really a way to measure the wattage of a resistor, but clearly quality does have the thicker ones when the wattage goes up. Alright, that's it. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.